I'm the commercial director for Beeswax across Northern Europe. Welcome to our log level data use cases webinar, where we plan to deep dive into some of the most popular use cases for log level data. And I'm very excited to be joined by Alex Abramov, who will be our main speaker for the session. Alex brings with him years of beeswax experience and is absolutely the right person we need to navigate us through this complex topic. So thanks for being here, Alex. I have also have my incredible colleague, Hannah Cooper, with me today. I'll let both Hannah and Alex introduce themselves in a second, but before we do that, let's go over a couple of housekeeping points. The first one is that the session is recorded. So any colleagues or contacts who you think may have been interested in the session but aren't currently available, it will be available on beeswax.com shortly after we've finished. There will also be a Q&A session at the end where Hannah and I will be putting your most important questions to Alex. So please do drop them into the chat at any point. You can do that publicly or anonymously, whatever you feel comfortable with doing. Okay, I'll hand over to Hannah to introduce herself. Hannah.
Hi, everyone. Lovely to meet you. I'm Hannah, as Greg mentioned. I'm a senior account exec at Beeswax. I've been here for just over 3 years. We're in a really exciting stage at the moment, and I'm really excited, as Greg said, to have Alex on board. One of our big selling points is log level data, and when used correctly, it is full of great power and really helps you use the Beeswax product to all its ability. So to not steal Alex's thunder, I'm going to pass over to Alex to introduce himself and get started with the webinar.
Thanks, Hannah. Hey guys, Alex here. I'm manager of the client solutions team and the professional services teams, and I've spent a decent amount of time during my career working with clients on setting up sort of like custom solutions leveraging Beeswax's log level data. Very excited to be here. Thank you very much for joining. And without further ado, let's get started. So for the agenda today, we've got a few things. So first, we'll start with a Logs 101, just a brief overview of exactly the type of log level data that Beeswax offers and how it's different to what our competitors expose to our clients. We'll talk about Antenna as a product feature that Beeswax offers that helps clients resolve some of the ETL issues that some encounter when setting up log level data ingestion pipes. Then we'll dive into some of the use cases that I consider to be pretty cool and very interesting and unique in terms of Beeswax having the ability to power them. And last but not least, we'll dive into a Q&A session where Hannah and Greg will work through the questions that you've posted in the chat. So, but beforehand, a couple of disclaimers. So EMEA clients interested in using log level data for user-based analytics need to have a user consent as an approved TCF vendor. Otherwise, some of the user-based analytics use cases that we're going to review won't be available to you. And secondly, the auction log data provided by Beeswax can't be used for the creation of derivative audience segments. This shouldn't come as a surprise to any of our active clients, but essentially what this means is that in order to leverage logs to create derivative audiences, you need to have submitted a bid on the request that contains the user ID of interest. So instead of using auction logs, you can use bid and win logs to do exactly that. And let's jump in, Logs 101. So let's briefly review the log availability on Beeswax. I think Beeswax is unique in offering complete access to the bid stream, making auction, bid, win, and conversion logs available to clients. The majority of logs are delivered to the clients as 3 buckets with a real-time streaming option available for the impression data log to support advanced custom algorithm use cases. So really what that means is if a client is running a bidding agent on top of Beeswax and they want to have their own pacing or budgeting systems instead of relying on Beeswax's ones, they would need to set themselves up with a real-time impression log stream. Batch cadences for delivery vary from near real-time to hourly and daily. And collectively, these log feeds enable clients to perform a variety of different analyses that otherwise would have been impossible on practically any other DSP. However, before we dive into these analyses, let's briefly discuss some of the challenges associated with data ingestion and how Beeswax helps you address those. So, Antenna. as I mentioned, there are multiple pain points with log level data ingestions that aren't trivial to solve. Namely, setting up and maintaining an ETL pipeline requires specialized engineering input, which obviously takes away from other development efforts, and hardware investment for both storage and compute hosts. It's genuinely a multi-step process across multiple systems such as Beeswax, AWS, and more, that, if possible, would be nice to avoid, especially when a client just wants to have immediate access to the log level data that we offer. So this is exactly what our Antenna offering aims to solve. Antenna, like the focus of the Antenna offering is to remove the complexity of setting up ETL pipelines. So by subscribing to Antenna, clients can gain querying access to their logs from day one through a Snowflake interface that we set up on behalf of the client, and not have to worry about any sort of engineering investments outside of querying the actual data. Beeswax handles the ingestion, the processing, the backfilling when necessary, and the maintenance of the pipes. Alternatively, we know that some of our clients already are active Snowflake subscribers. So if they have an individual Snowflake instance, Antenna can push the data directly into the client's warehouse, again, saving them time and effort on setting up specialized ETL pipes. So it really is a very flexible offering that is powered by Snowflake, which in our opinion is the best data warehousing solution available in the market currently. And now that we have reviewed the different logs that are available, as well as how we can assist with the ingestion of those logs, let's jump into some of the use cases that our logs can power. So first, let's start with first-party audience analytics. So this use case is powered by a combination of auction and segment logs, and are valuable to clients who prioritize targeting first-party data audiences. So it's useful for things like calculating unique programmatic reach for specific audiences, i.e., if you're trying to understand the total percentage of users that you can reach through Beeswax across a list of targeted segments, combining auction and segment logs enable you to do exactly that. You can use the combination of the aforementioned logs to map user browsing activity across different content verticals, geo regions, and time periods, i.e., if it's important for you to understand how to sort of optimize your line item targeting in order to maximize the reach against a specific segment or a specific segment, you can do that so by analyzing the auction and segment logs. And finally, last but not least, you can create segment-specific forecasts, i.e., for example, you can set up a time series forecast that showcases when an audience from a given segment is live and active. So that's use case number one. And this is sort of a derivative of a first-party audience analytics use case, which is convert analytics. It's powered by a combination of auction and conversion logs. And instead of focusing simply on the programmatic behavior of some of your targeted audiences, this report focuses on understanding what converters do prior to performing a specific action. So it's valuable to performance-focused clients who are looking for audience insights, and it's useful for understanding converter browsing behavior prior to performing certain pixel tracks actions. In other words, if you're trying to drive like a certain purchase landing page behavior, right? You can take the user IDs of the users that have performed the aforementioned actions, query the auction logs to see where those user IDs have appeared within a specified lookback window that fits your attribution model, and try and identify patterns of behavior that you can then action against by setting up campaigns in Beeswax. So enhanced performance reporting. This type of use case is powered by combining wizard conversion logs, and actually should be fairly familiar to a number of today's webinar's participants. So it's valuable to clients who leverage machine learning to optimize their performance campaigns. So what does that mean? For any client that is deploying a custom algorithm or a bid model that's aiming to optimize towards clicks, views, video completes, conversions, it's important to analyze every feature that is available within like an open RTB dataset, right? And in order to perform that, you need full insight, right? And that's exactly what the combination of win and conversion logs enable you to do. It enables you to perform an extensive multivariate analysis across like a very large number of features. You really can include as many features as you like. And the purpose of that analysis is to understand which features drive the desired user engagement, i.e., which features contain the most predictive signal in order to get the user to do what your campaign sets out to do. Custom conversion attribution. So again, similar vein, we leverage winning conversion logs again in order to power this particular use case. And this is valuable to clients who use non-standard custom attribution methodologies to track conversions, right? Obviously, today's DSPs by default to standard post-view and post-click look-back windows, but oftentimes now marketers are looking for more complex, more tailored attribution methods to track conversions and measure their return on ad spend. And that's exactly what custom conversion attribution reports enable you to do, right? First of all, they enable you to apply custom look-back windows, right? They can be as small as big. They can be a combination of different events, like events of different quality, in order for you to tie a conversion to an impression or a click. If you're looking for a user to perform multiple actions in succession within a short period of time, you can leverage these logs to group multiple events and identify them as single conversions before attributing them to impression, clicks, views, whatever. And finally, last but not least, you can leverage a cross-device graph, if you have one in-house, to connect impressions and conversions across multiple devices and environments. Now, the last use case is very interesting. We have a couple of clients who have proprietary probabilistic graphs that they use to do exactly that. Obviously, it's fairly complex in the sense that multiple other things need to be set up in parallel aside from ingesting wins and conversion logs in order for this use case to be powered, but more than happy to walk you through it in a separate session if this is of interest. Enhanced bid performance reporting. So as some of our clients know, we have a bid performance report available in our aggregated reporting UI, which enables you to calculate win rates broken out by campaigns, line items, creatives, etc. Right? So whilst win rates are it's a very interesting and important metric to track, we believe that it's in some ways incomplete in the sense that it doesn't take into account the total number of auctions available for a specific type of request that you're bidding on. And so combining auction bid and win logs enables you to solve that problem where you can calculate both bid and win rates against specific traffic tranches. And why is that important? Well, for one, if there is a specific type of request that you know is very valuable to you and your customers, right? Identifying instances where you're not bidding as often, when you're not bidding and winning as often as you'd like against those types of requests can be very valuable in terms of scaling spend efficiently. And secondly, it's also like an effective report for identifying requests that are outside of a client's bid price range to remove them from traffic filtering. Now, for those who are less familiar with Beeswax, what does that mean? Beeswax Bidder as a service works on a query per second basis where we tailor the bid request stream going to each of our clients' bidders, right? And most clients subscribe to a finite amount of queries per second, meaning that they can't necessarily listen to everything that they would want to listen to, well, that they would be interested in listening to. However, leveraging an enhanced bid performance report would enable you to identify requests that, for one reason or another, you're not interested in listening to, and then exclude them from your traffic filtering profile, therefore increasing the efficiency with which you filter for your traffic and therefore use your Beeswax Bidder. And that concludes the use case review for today. So now let's jump into Q&A. Any and all questions that you have, we're very happy to address.
Thanks, Alex. Lots of information there for you to digest, and we most definitely don't expect you to understand everything immediately, and that's what we're here for.
I think we may have lost Hannah's audio. Alex, sorry if we haven't, Hannah, and it's just me. Alex, can you hear?
I can.
You cannot. Okay, so okay. I think your audio dropped, but I think what you were saying is thanks for all the information, Alex. Really amazing, abundant amount of detail there, and we went through it in record pace. So if there are any other further questions, please do drop them in the Q&A. If you're not comfortable with asking now, you can of course ask them at another time. We're here. Are you back, Hannah?
I am back.
There we go.
My headphones are playing games.
I think you're gone again. Okay. While Hannah sorts out the technical difficulties, I can crack on with some of the questions that we've had come in so far. So Alex, someone says, thanks for the overview. I wondered, are there challenges in processing log files? You touched on that a bit with Antenna, but maybe just pad out the that part of it would be great.
I mean, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily a challenge, but it does require a specialized like engineering skill set, right? So it's about setting up ETL pipes, right? So meaning that you need to have sort of like a set of scripts that have access to a specific S3 bucket where the logs are being received, where you ingest those logs, you create tables and format them prior to ingesting the logs. Anytime the job fails, you need to have like a parallel job running in order to conduct successful backfills. And in certain cases, if your data warehouse goes down, i.e. the hardware hosts or the storage hosts powering that warehouse are malfunctioning, you need to have monitoring tools as well as a separate engineering team that can spin those back up, right, in order for the reporting, for your reporting stack to continue to function properly. It's not rocket science, but it does require like a specific set of expertise, right? And oftentimes clients simply don't have those.
Yeah, okay, yeah, for sure. Next question. This one seems to maybe bridge into an optimization session, which is a whole nother day. But how can I use logs for optimization purposes in Beeswax? I think that's thinking about bid models particularly. Yeah,
for sure. So there's two primary optimization APIs available to clients on Beeswax. One is the bid modeling API and one is the bidding agent API, right? So but in both cases, right, you can leverage, as I mentioned, you can leverage winning conversion logs to extract sort of like, actionable patterns for maximizing conversion rates against specific events, right? Typically, the way our clients do it is by applying like various machine learning algorithms, right? Be that like gradient boosting algorithms such as XGBoost or CatBoost, or like more kind of sophisticated learning algorithms such as TensorFlow, to effectively either build regression like linear regression models that predict a conversion rate for a specific type of bid request, or classification models which predicts or like a 0 to 1 outcome. Does a bid request convert? Does it not convert? Right? And then once you've built this model to generate those predictions, right, around conversion rates or engagement rates, you can translate those into bid prices and apply those translations either like in a form of like prediction files or CSVs through bid models, or by deploying sort of like your own custom server, which we refer to as a bidding agent, setting up the algorithm there and then plugging into Beeswax to kind of score requests that match your active line items in real time.
Thanks, Alex. We've got a question from Nora. What's the value of utilizing Antenna versus processing it yourself in your own data warehouse?
I think it just depends on your internal engineering costs, right? Like if you can optimize them below the cost of Antenna, right, it probably makes more sense for you to sort of like handle it internally, right? But otherwise, there's practically no difference, right? I think it's simply a matter of cost and convenience. Everything that you would be able to do through sort of like your internal data warehouse, you would be able to do through Snowflake, well, through the Snowflake Antenna instances. So yeah, I would say it's just a matter of cost.
Alex, I'll give you a break. I'll take one for you. Someone has asked, can I take logs on an uncommitted basis to trial out what data I receive? So there are many ways that we talk about pricing and think about our the commercial model behind Beeswax, whether it's BAS or DSP. And so there are options around logs, right? And as a company, we want to make sure that we are handling log data sensitively, but we're also making sure that we're taking care of what your use case requires, whilst not putting any commitments around commercials so that it's a strain on that part of the relationship. So there are options. I prefer to discuss them one-to-one, I think, but yeah, there certainly are ways that we can set up access for testing under the relevant contracts as Alex had mentioned at the top of this. Next one for you, Alex. Can I receive win logs in real time?
Yes, absolutely. So the real-time streaming option is available. However, the delivery mechanism is different to what happens with batch logs that are delivered to S3, right? So in order to, like, the real-time impression data is sent in JSON format, and it can be sent via like an HTTP connection or a Kinesis connection, right? So both of those require for you to set up an HTTP server, right, that will handle all of that, like that stream of data in real time. And so there's some additional complexity to it, because outside of setting up the hardware and the processing logic, you also need to set up additional pipes that like push the real-time streaming data like from the server to your data warehouse. But the option is certainly available.
Great, thanks, Alex. We've got a question come in. Do win logs have all fields found in the original bid request? So around the win log headers available, are there any discrepancies between all of the fields available in the original bid request?
Mm-hmm. So, okay, the simple answer is almost, like I would say 99.9%. So a couple of caveats. One, whenever a request passes a LiveRamp IDL, right, we don't by default include those in win logs, right? We tip for clients who are interested in including IDLs in their win logs. We first check if they have like a separate contractual agreement with LiveRamp, and then set up a custom like win log feed that includes that information. And then for EMEA clients, so like following the disclaimer at the beginning of the presentation, if the client doesn't have consent to capture to capture user data, we take that into account and we obfuscate user IDs, device IDs, and IP addresses for those for the impressions won from those users. But in all other cases, like all the other parameters found in the bid request, the values that we receive from the exchange for those parameters are included in the win log entries for those impressions that we share with clients.
And another one that just follows nicely onto that, do we have a list of headers that are present in each of the log types that we can share directly with our customers? Easy one. Yeah.
the header definitions are available on GitHub, and very happy to share the links to those after the webinar.
Yeah, definitely. If you're a current customer, reach out to your account manager. They can point you in the right direction. And if you're not a current customer with Beeswax, please reach out to either Greg, Alex, or I, and we can again point you in the right direction to that.
Okay, a couple more, Alex, just to take us home. So there are lots of options here. This is an anonymous one. There are lots of options here. Which logs are most commonly used amongst Beeswax customers?
Auction logs for forecasting, for sure. So obviously there's a forecasting option available on the Beeswax platform where you can set up like forecasting lines that produce forecasting estimates in our UI. But for certain clients, they need those reports to be produced so like in custom formats, right, or delivered in CSV, whatever, to like their external systems, right? So in those cases, clients leverage auction logs to basically power those reports, right? Either by calculating total availability of auctions for specific type of requests, or in more sophisticated use cases, building time forecasting models that predict auction availability in the future by extrapolating what's occurred in the past. And then the enhanced bid performance report that I've touched upon, where you combine win and conversion logs for like optimization purposes. I would say that's probably the second most commonly found use case.
Okay. Last question. What happens if you have an outage of data processing and I'm receiving real-time logs?
So in those cases, one, like we have monitoring tools. So whenever this happens, we typically don't wait for clients to reach out to us. We kind of proactively tackle it, obviously, whilst notifying clients at the same time. But we have backfilling measures in place that basically, send all of the lost data to the client if an outage like that occurs. So there's never really any real loss of data.
Okay, well, good news. And that's the end of the questions, and I think the end of the session for today. So I would just like to finish by saying a huge thank you to Alex and Hannah for helping us get this webinar together today. We hope you found it useful. If there are any other questions that you have, please feel free to reach out to any of us. Our email addresses, I think we're on the slides, but if not, it's simply Greg, Alex, and Hannah at beeswax.com. And then we will also have the recording, as I mentioned at the top, that should be available on the site either today or tomorrow. And yeah, thanks very much for joining, and we'll see you again really soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.